The Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, Part 4. Hey guys, John back again doing the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, Part 4. Today we're going to go from passage 60 to 78. These are the next element of him showing the impermanence of the physical world and the divinity of you. So let me just dive right in, and let's go ahead and do this thing. He saw a Samaritan carrying a lamb and going to Judea. He said to his disciples, "That person around the lamb." They said to him, "So that he may kill and eat it." He said to them, "He will not eat it while it is alive, but only after he has killed it, and it has become a carcass." They said, "Otherwise he can't do it." He said to them, "So also with you. Seek for yourselves a place of rest, where you might become a carcass and be eaten." Jesus said, "Two will recline on a couch, and one will die, one will live." Salome said, "Who are you, mister? You have climbed onto my couch and eaten from my table as if you are from someone." Jesus said to her, "I am the one who comes from what is whole. I am granted from the things of my Father. I am your disciple. For this reason I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light, but if one is divided, one will be filled with darkness." Jesus said, "I disclose my mysteries to those who are worthy of my mysteries." Jesus said, "There was a rich person who had a great deal of money. He said, 'I shall invest my money so that I may sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouses with produce, that I may lack nothing.' These were the things he was thinking in his heart. But that very night he died. Anyone here who has 2 ears had better listen." Jesus said, "A person was receiving guests. When he had prepared the dinner, he sent his slave to invite the guests. The slaves went to the first and said to the one, 'My master invites you.' That one said, 'Some merchants owe me money. They are coming for me tonight. I have to go and give them instructions. Please excuse me from dinner.' The slave went to another and said, 'My master has invited you.' That one said to the slave, 'I have bought a house, and I have been called away for a day. I shall have no time.' The slave went to another and said to that one, 'My master invites you.' That one said to the slave, 'My friend is to be married, and I am to arrange the banquet. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me from dinner.' The slave went to another and said to that one, 'My master invites you.' That one said to the slave, 'I have bought an estate, and I'm going to collect the rent. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me.' The slave returned to the master and said, 'Those whom you invited to dinner have asked to be excused.' The master said to his slave, 'Go out on the streets and bring back whomever you find to have dinner. Buyers and merchants will not enter the places of my Father.'" This first passage is amazing, and it takes, when you first read it, it's almost hard to understand. It is missing a little piece, but when you work around that little tiny piece, you find that there's a huge truth in this first part here. It says, he saw a Samaritan carrying a lamb and going to Judea. He said to his disciples, "That person," and this is the little tiny piece that was missing something, "around the lamb." As they said, but you don't really see what he fully said there. They said to him, "So that he may kill and eat it." So basically he says, what is that person doing around the lamb, basically? Why is he doing that? Why is he around the lamb? And they said, "So he can kill and eat it." He said to them, "He will not eat it while it is alive, but only after he has killed it and it has become a carcass." They said, "Otherwise he can't do it." when you then the next line, he said to them, so also with you, seek yourselves a place of rest, or you might become a carcass and be eaten. Two will recline on the couch, one will die and one will live. The concept of the carcass is a very powerful image, but the carcass it is a dichotomy of life and physical life and spirit. When we are so trapped in our material physical world troubles, we are forgetting to love. We are forgetting to be of spirit. And when we fall into the material world struggles, and we start to, be afraid and start to focus on the negative and experience the world from it being a terrible place, we're being eaten alive by our own fears and anxieties. But he says, seek a place of rest, or you might become a carcass and be eaten. The world seems to devour those people who focus on the physical world stories that we're told. Because, all the news that you hear is always people talking about the bad things that are happening, things to worry about, things to be fearful. Religion will tell you to be fearful entirely, so that they can hold on to that power, right? But as long as you are succumbing to the physical world stories, you are becoming a carcass. You're no longer going into spirit. You're no longer touching the divinity within you. And then he says, two will recline on a couch, one will die and one will live. Two people side by side, one person gets immersed into the world of the physical fear-based beliefs, and the other one, becomes a loving person and stays awake to his spirit. And they could be sitting side by side, and one person could be alive in spirit, and the other one could be dead in the physical world belief. And that's what this whole statement. And as we dive deeper down into these next passages, you'll see how everything else below this builds upon this theme. And when you look at it, it really is a thing of being of the spirit. Now, what is the spirit? The spirit is love. Being love. God is love. That's what the Bible says. That's what you can find in almost every religion. Love is, God is a loving kindness. God is love, right? So you can be of love or you can be of fear. It was basically what this is talking about. And people are, I need to do this, and I need to get it, and I need to be so immersed in the physical world needs, and I need to do this, and this, and this. And when you look at from this perspective, you come to a place where you come to realize that the physical world will always have a story to tell you, and they will always tell you this atrocity is happening or that atrocity is happening, or you'll get so immersed in the love of money that you'll lose perspective on people. It's that when we get so anchored into the physical world that we forget to love and we forget to be of spirit, then we become the carcass, and the world will devour us, because the people who end up being so immersed in the physical that they forget the spirit, they have a really rough life. And the interesting thing is, a lot of religions put people in fear, which means they are so immersed in the physical fear of God that they're missing the love. They're missing the joy, the oneness with God that is love. And because they're so immersed in fear and in judging others to make themselves feel right. So they are the ones who will be the carcass on the couch. And the people who awaken to being love and living a loving life are the ones who are alive and aren't eaten by the world. And that's amazing. The next one, someone named Salome, and there were many, many Salomes. I mean, Jeshua had a sister named Salome, and there have been other Salomes that were mentioned around. And this obvious person here obviously does not know Jeshua, because her question is, "Who are you, mister? You have climbed onto my couch and eaten from my table as if you are from someone." She's questioning his authority. She's questioning, who are you? And you've acted like you are an authority. Who are you? So he said to her, "I am the one who comes from what is whole, I was granted from these things of my Father. The next line, I am your disciple. For this reason I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light, and if one is divided, one will be filled with darkness. So he's just reiterating exactly what I just said. He's literally saying, I come from the oneness of God. I come from the spirit of love. I come from the Father, which is the ancient archaic way of saying God. And then the next thing he says is, I am your disciple. I am someone who is, one with you as well. I'm not only here, but I'm here. And so are you. You're here and you're here. And then the next line he says is, for this reason I say, if one is whole, if one is one with spirit, one will be filled with light. Whole meaning being pure of love. The Bible says no fear can exist in pure love. And all of the physical world stories have an element of fear within them. And if I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light. If one is divided from that love and goes off into the fear, one will be filled with darkness. He literally is saying, when you marry yourself to the physical world stories, then what happens is you become filled with that fear, with that darkness, with that element of self that is separate from God, separate from love, separate from being in the oneness of love and God. And that in itself is a type of death, because you are not alive with the light, with love, with God, with the Spirit. It's a matter of saying, that you are more than the physical world. And when you only focus on the physical world, then you go into darkness. And I can tell you from my personal experience, when my mom, my beautiful mom back there, told me that that spirituality was a personal journey, the first journey I tried was atheism. And when I tried atheism, I discovered very quickly that I got depressed, because atheists have to, using their scientific mind, only are subject to empirical evidence. Well, empirical evidence is shown to us in the world by the news, and the news is always focused on fear-based stuff and how bad things are. And so most atheists that I know are bitter people. I mean, hop on Bill Maher and watch him sometimes. That's one of the most bitter people I've ever met in my life, I've ever seen in my life. And I did see him in person one time, and he was just as bitter then too. And let's move on to this, the next part of this first passage, the first group of passages. He says, I disclose my mysteries to those, and then in brackets it says, who are worthy of, in brackets, mysteries. So those who are worthy they're either missing pieces, or they're interpretations that they're not fully sure of. When you see it in brackets like that, they're not really they think that's what it is, but they're a little concerned about it. So those who are worthy of my mysteries. And I would say those who are, rather than saying who are worthy, because I don't think Joshua ever thought about it as an equality or worthiness thing. I think he thought of it as someone who is aware of these mysteries. And it doesn't say of my mysteries. Aware. Some people who can see these mysteries. I disclose my mysteries to those who are aware of what I'm saying, aware of these mysteries, who can see the reality of these words. Let me move on. So he said, there's a rich person who had a great deal of money. He said, I shall invest my money so that I may sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouses with produce, that I may lack nothing. Right? These were the things he was thinking in his heart. These are the things he was thinking in his heart. Those were his beliefs. I'm focused solely on sowing, reaping, planting, and filling my storehouses with produce, so that I may lack nothing. Right? That I may lack nothing. These were the things in his heart. But that very night he died. So, sow, reap, plant, fill storehouses, that I may lack nothing. That whole statement is based on lack. And that night he lost everything. That night he lost everything. He lacked, right? He lacked Now, all of those things became unimportant, right? Because now he's passed. Now, I'm sure when he passed, he learned that lesson. He learned that experience of, oh, none of that was important. None of that was important to my life, to my experience, and I was so focused on lack in my life that I left here with nothing. I left here with no awareness of my own spirit, my own loving self, because I was so focused on sowing, reaping, planting, and filling my storehouses with produce so that I may not lack. But a lot of people will live their life saying, I've got to prepare for my retirement. I've got to and they get so focused on not lacking, they don't realize they're really focused on lacking. And that's really kind of the key of what this statement is. So this next bit here, he tells the story of a person who's receiving guests and has them for dinner. Invite the guests. And he gives a series of stories of people who refuse to come to dinner because they are too invested in the material world. One person, merchants are coming to pay him money. One person bought a house and has to call it away for a day. Next person is, I have to arrange a banquet for a marriage. The next person is, I have to go collect rent. Next person is, and actually that was all the people. And then he says, those whom you have invited have come to excused. And the master said to his slave, go out in the streets and bring back whomever you find to have dinner. In other words, it doesn't matter what their material world possessions are. Just go out and invite. Some people are not going to come. Some people are going to come. And the ones who come are the ones who need it. The ones who are open to it. The ones who are aware to it. It's a matter of not being, he says, go out in the streets and bring back whomever you find to have dinner. Don't worry about those individual people. Go out and get everybody. And some are going to come and some are not. But put yourself out there. And his next line is, the buyers and merchants will not enter places of my Father. The people who are so invested in the physical world and all of its struggles, triumphs, or conquests, they're missing the point of spirit. They're missing the point of love. They're gonna live their life without having that spiritual element in their life because of the fact that they're so invested in the struggles of life. And so he literally is saying, buyers and merchants will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't mean that all buyers and merchants are going to, because there are loving people who are buyers and merchants, but the ones who are so invested in it that they forget to come to dinner at the house of love, those are the ones who are not going to make it because they're not open to receiving it because they're too invested in the physical world. Don't be anchored in the physical space is what he's talking about. Let's go on to passage 65, shall we? He said, a person owned a vineyard and rented it to some farmers so they would work it and he could collect its crop from them. He sent his slaves so the farmers would give him the vineyard's crop. They grabbed him, beat him, and almost killed him. The slave returned and told his master. His master said, perhaps he didn't know them. He sent another slave, and the farmers beat that one as well. Then the master sent his son and said, perhaps they'll show my son some respect. Because the farmers knew that he was their heir to the vineyard, they grabbed him and killed him. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen. Jesus said, show me the stone that the builders rejected, that is the cornerstone. Jesus said, those who know all but are lacking in themselves are utterly lacking. Jesus said, congratulations to you when you are hated and persecuted, and no place will be found wherever you have been persecuted. Jesus said, congratulations to those who have been persecuted in their hearts. They are the ones who have truly come to know the Father. Congratulations to those who go hungry, so the stomach of the one in want may be filled. So this next piece here that I just read, there's a lot in this that I want to touch on because this actual section here proves that this was written after the crucifixion, because this is Jesus telling a prophetic story of something that's coming to happen, right? But the prophetic side of this is proving the messianic story. That he is the heir to God. He is the son of the Father. This is literally written by a Judaic sect that really wanted to prove him to be a Messiah. So they're adding this concept of him being the one heir of God and treated so poorly. So let me just dive into this and look at this. So a person owned a vineyard, and he sends a slave. He sends someone out to talk about God and talk about spirit, and they beat him up. They send him, "Go away, get out of here, kid. You bother me." Right? Next kid comes along. Next slave comes along, from God, and they beat him up. And then finally, God sends His only Son, right, the Messiah, and they kill him. Right? Well, that concept of killing the Son is what makes the Son the Messiah, because the Son had to die because of prophecy, right? And then Jesus said, "Show me the stone the builders rejected, and that is the keystone." The difference, what this statement is talking about, is the physical world, the people who are so immersed in the physical that they don't see the spiritual. When you look at the concept of this, the ideas are right. But the messianic stuff is where it falls away to the Judaic sect's belief. So if we take out the messianic stuff and we just focus on what they're saying here, show me the stone that the builders rejected, that is the keystone. There are so many people in the world who are looked down upon and frowned upon, and they're not treated as equals. And yet they have so much inside of them that we don't see because we have rejected them. In the rejection of other people, you are missing the opportunity. I have a membership group every Wednesday night with a group of people. We all have different beliefs. It's one of the most loving groups you'll ever meet in your life. And what's so fascinating about the group is we all learn from each other. We learn new. I learn from them. They learn from me. We don't reject anybody's concepts or beliefs. And it comes down to that idea that you can't step into a place of that sort of rejection and truly get the full image of God and get the full understanding of God. So my son used to say the most miraculous things when he was 6 years old. If I would have rejected him as a child, I would have missed those words, because it's that child who is speaking without the limitations of my adult beliefs. If I rejected him as a child, I wouldn't be hearing the message of the source. And that to me is beautiful. Everything is there. And here's the great line. Those who know all, but are lacking in themselves, are utterly lacking. See, this is telling you, you know everything in the physical world. You know all the empirical evidence. You know all the scientific data. But you're not willing to step inside yourself and say, it's more than that. It's bigger than that. And because you're not stepping inside, you're missing the vastness of your divinity. You're missing the vastness of God itself. God Himself, herself. Right? You're missing the vastness. And because of that, you're stuck only with dealing with this empirical evidence, which is found in the illusion of your belief. And you're utterly lacking the direct connection to divinity. You've heard me tell many stories about manifestations in my own life. Right? None of those would have happened if I believed in anything less than I can create. That I have the connection to divinity. So do you. So does everyone. Everyone has the same power. It all comes back to the simple belief, though. And when you put your beliefs in the physical world, empirical evidences, and the news, what the news is telling you, and what the various news channels are telling you, and what your Aunt Tilly's telling you, and when you put all of your belief into that, you lose yourself for the physical world stories, and those physical world stories literally take you away from yourself. And those physical world stories are just stories. and you lose yourself and become utterly lacking because you have closed yourself down to the truth of your divinity. Jesus said, congratulations to the one who are hated and persecuted. No place will be found wherever you have been persecuted. That's a great line. He's saying you're being persecuted because your beliefs are different. Congratulations to you who doesn't follow the sheep. Congratulations to you who isn't a lemming who goes off the cliff with the other lemmings. Congratulations to you who have found you and have found your divinity and is not forced to go down the inn-yards of religion and political beliefs. And blessed are you who have found your own self, your own divinity, and you're going to be persecuted for it. I can tell you from experience, when you come out with some of the big topics that I talk about, there's always somebody who's going to come out and persecute you for it, because they have to be right and they have to believe that their story is correct. And I hear people all the time saying to me things like, well, math is absolute. And I'm like, okay, all right, math is absolute. Math is a science of the mind. And all those mathematicians who created all those theories, what's the word theory mean again? It means belief. So they're seeing the evidence of their belief, right? And so, yes, you can prove the theories, you can prove the experiences, but you're missing the point of the divinity. When I had my Kundalini rising, I was in a tent with someone who was trying to have one for years. And I spontaneously had one. What was the difference? He was trying, and he was focused on the physical world, method and modality, and I was just warming my body up. I am doing something. It was just the simplicity of just being in the moment and feeling the warmth, as opposed to focusing on the method and the technique to get to a Kundalini rising. It's feeling. It comes from the feelings. We jump into the next place. Congratulations to those who have been persecuted in their hearts. They are the ones who have truly come to know the Father. I often talk to people who struggle with relationships, with love, and they've been persecuted in their hearts. Their love has been harmed, been damaged. I myself am divorced 3 times, right? And those are all heartbreaking moments, right? But they are the ones who truly come to know the Father. The more painful and traumatic your heart is broken, the more you will understand love when you experience it again. Because the baseline of love, baseline of your fears and your anxieties and your stresses, is the thing that is the feeling that when you experience love again, you'll be able to experience love more fully because you've experienced its lack. And so, congratulations when you are hated or persecuted. Congratulations who are persecuted in their hearts. That concept is that right in your heart, you're feeling that separation and connection when you come back to source, when you come back to the place of pure love and divinity and release the stories of the physical world. Because you have been through this journey of a persecuted heart, you will experience a greater connection to God, a greater connection to love. And that's, it sucks to go through it, but in reality, in the end, you're going to be so happy you went through it because you're going to be able to experience God more fully. Congratulations to those who go hungry, so the stomach of the one in want may be filled. This is not about food. This is the one who abstains from the physical world, material things. And so the stomach of the one in want may be filled. So here's someone who is in want and hungry and tired and, lost. And congratulations to one who go hungry, who hands off one sandwich and only eats half of one, right? Who sees a person who is outside freezing and goes out and gives them food and a blanket, right? Well, the food and the blanket he gave him were his. He He gave up something for someone else. He realized the distribution of love is not, and material goods, it's just material goods, material things. And the belief that more material things come is something that person in want doesn't have. And you give them something, and it shows them that things do come. And you show them, and congratulations to those who go hungry so the stomach of the one in want may be filled. You literally are sharing your wealth so that the world doesn't have to suffer. You are not so material that you are not being invited, that you refuse to go to dinner with God, right? No, you say, oh, there's a need. I can help. And I do. And that's really the key to it all, is understanding that we're here to love one another. Love one another. That is truly the lesson of all of these Gospels. It's just love one another. It's the last thing Jesus said to us, in the Bible. Joshua, love one another. So let's move on to the next piece here. Jesus said, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you. Jesus said, I will destroy this house, and no one will be able to rebuild it. A person said to him, tell my brothers to divide my father's possessions with me. He said to the person, Mister, who made me a divider? He turned to his disciples and said to them, I'm not the divider, am I? Jesus said, the crop is huge, but the workers are few. So beg the harvest boss to dispatch what workers to the fields. He said, Lord, there are many around the drinking trough, but there is nothing in the well. Jesus said, there are many standing at the door, but those who are alone will enter the bridal suite. Jesus said, the Father's kingdom is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and found a pearl. That merchant was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. So also with you, seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm destroys. Jesus said, I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, you will find me there. Jesus said, why have you come out of the countryside to see a reed shaken by the wind, and to see a person dressed in soft clothes, like your rulers and your powerful ones? They are dressed in soft clothes, and they cannot understand truth. So he says here, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you. He's literally saying is, come back into self. I often say that the line, when you seek a path will be laid before you, but until you turn the path back to yourself, you never find the doorway. These material world stories, these material world possessions that we get so trapped into, and the fear-based tales that we tell ourselves, when we look at them, they become overpowering in our belief, in our stories. But until you step back and exhale and release the tensions of those stories, and come back to you yourself, and realizing you get to choose your experience, then you're gonna become that carcass, like it says earlier on. You're gonna get lost in the physical world of all of your material possessions, all of your broken hearts, all of those stories of the physical world will literally kill you. It'll literally take the life from you until you step back to yourself, until you come back to the love that's within you, because you are divine. You are the one who is directly connected to that source. And when you come back to that space, what happens is you find an unlimited eternal life that is never wanting, because it's always there. And that is the key. Is you've got to come from within, not reacting to what's without. And that's a huge story. He says, I will destroy this house and no one will be able to rebuild it. I'll destroy the physical. I will break down this physical story, and you won't be able to rebuild it because you'll be immersed in the pure love of God. You'll be immersed in the physical reality as being an illusion, and the reality being you and your oneness with the source. And that's the key. That really is the key to all of this, is that you've got to release the need for the things and the need for the person and the need for all these physical world stories, and coming back to that space of just being you authentically and loving one another and being the pure essence of love, because that is your nature. That is truly your nature. And all of this physical stuff will be destroyed. It'll all go away because you'll step into a greater role. He says, I will destroy this house, this story of my life, and no one will be able to rebuild it. No one will be able to rebuild what his story is, right? Because it's his story. So you can change your story, and that's the huge part of this. And then the next person says, tell my brothers to divide my father's possessions with me. My father's possessions. Now let's go back to the deeper story of that, my father's. Tell my brothers to divide my father's possessions with me. I said earlier on, in Jeshua's teaching, Father would be God, right? So this person said is coming to them from the materialistic possession, right? So Jesus responds, Mister, who made me a divider? And then he turns to the disciples and says, I'm not a divider, am I? He's literally saying, do not delineate me from anyone. Do not separate me from anyone, and I'm not here to separate you from anything or divide anything between you or your Father. This is not my job. I'm not an authority. I'm not here to divide. I'm here to unite. I'm here to bring everyone back to their oneness. He says, I'm not a divider. I am a unifier. I'm one who brings ones together, not tears ones apart and tears people apart. And when you look at this, they're asking you, break up or divide our father's possessions with me. I'm so grateful. When my mother passed away, all of us, she had 7 kids. We all went down to Florida before, for the funeral, and we all went through the house and we said, who wants what? And we all just no arguments, no fighting. We all were very even keeled, and there was no, I actually didn't want anything in the house because I was like, none of this is important to me, right? And then there was this one tin photograph of my great-grandfather. Yeah, great-grandfather. And great-great-grandfather. And no one knew who it was except for me. And nobody wanted this picture. And I just kept looking at this picture saying, nobody wants it? And I said, I'll take that. It's the one thing I took out of the house, is this tin photograph of my great-great-grandfather. And his name, by the way, I love his name, Benjamin Franklin Rose Jr. And when it hangs in my living room today with its original Civil War era frame, and I love it. I love it, right? But it was like when we were dividing things, that was the one thing nobody else wanted, and so that became the keystone of my memory of that day, right? Because that was the one that was cast out, and I was like, no, I want that one. And that really comes down to that idea of the ones that are cast out, the ones that are rejected, are the ones that are sometimes the most important. And I think it's important for me personally, when I think of that tin type photograph, it's a representation of our lineage, of our family story, of the feeling of that history, that legacy. And that, to me, is what makes that so important. It has nothing to do with wanting that physical possession. It's that feeling of that legacy. And it's interesting, when I did my my ancestry, and I did my tree, my family tree, that traced it back to William Rose, and William Rose had the first contract with sword makers to make swords for the first army of the Americas, and I ended up making swords later in life. So there was this thing going on, and then of course William Rose and Sons became, after they stopped making swords, they started making masonry tools. And if you go to any Home Depot right now, you can buy a W. Rose and Sons tool. I'm part of that family line. So to me, that's just that idea of that legacy is just beautiful, right? But what is the legacy you're creating? Are you creating a legacy of things? Are you creating a legacy of love? And my goal in life is to go through life and leave a positive wake behind me, and really hope that no one remembers the captain of the boat. Because the reality of it is that it's not who's spreading the love, it's the love that's important. And love does not divide. Christians want to divide and say our way is right and your way is wrong. And Muslims say the same, and there's all these different religions. God and love can be found in all of them. Jesus said, the crop is large. The crop is huge, but the workers are few. So beg the harvest boss to dispatch workers to the fields. He says, God is huge and abundant and giant, but there's very few people who are actually spreading it, who are actually working with it within God, within love. So dispatch the harvest boss to get workers to the fields. Go out and spread the word. Get people talking about love, talking about the connection to source. The crop is huge, so we need more workers, more people who are just spreading love, and that's what this message is spread your love so the love can be spread. Love one another so others can love others. Somebody said, Lord, there are many around the drinking trough, but there's nothing in the well. He's basically saying there's what they're dealing with in life. They're all going there for more and more and more, and there's nothing really there. And then he says, there are many standing at the door, but those who are alone will enter the bridal suite. Those who separate themselves from the material world, separate themselves from a religious dogma, those who come alone and back to themselves, will enter the bridal suite, will marry themselves to God, will become one with the source, will step into the celebration of a new union, the bridal suite. He literally says, let go of the material, let go of the religious, let go of the political, come right back to being unified and alone with yourself. And what's interesting is the alone part, some people think of that as a negative. But once you come back to that space, you're never alone again. Because what happens is you start to see everything as one. And that alone is you with everyone. And you go out in the world and you smile at little kids and you joke with people, and you see people who are having a hard time stepping up on the curb, so you help them step up on the curb. You hold the door for someone. You pay for the person behind you in line. You just make someone laugh when they're down. You care enough to say, are you okay? Those little things are serving not only them but you, because they are you. They are one with you. And when you're alone with the oneness, you're never alone. And remember that, because that is the key, is you and your belief and your direct connection does not need a story or a structure around it. You are one with God. You are one with that source, and every piece of it that you see outside your window is you, and you're alone with it. But you're never alone again. So he says, the Father's kingdom was like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and found a pearl. That merchant was prudent He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. He's got all this stuff, all of these stories, all of these dogmas, all of these religions, all of this stuff, and he sees the one valuable thing, which is himself. And he takes the pearl, found a pearl, and he was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. He literally found the one thing that was truly valuable and got rid of the rest. And then the next line, so also with you, seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm comes to destroy. Nothing in the physical world can take away the treasure that is within you, the one that is unfailing. Nothing in the physical world can touch your indomitable spirit. And only you get to have the ability of saying, I am this. I am this. And that in itself is you stepping into that role, you stepping into being that love. And that's the most important thing you can do for your entire existence. Now here's where it comes to the next part, and I just kind of touched on this a little bit in what I just said. Jesus said, I am the light that is over all things. I love this line, I am the light that is over all things, right? And then the next thing says, I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. When you think about this statement, he's literally saying over and over again the words I am. Whatever you ask in God's name is granted. And Moses said God's name is I am. This line is speaking the truth of divinity. And all of us can say I am. All of us have the ability and do on a regular basis. Many people say I am struggling. And from me all came forth, and to me all attained. So I am struggling, I am literally declaring struggle. I am suffering, I am literally declaring suffering. I am heartbroken, I am literally declaring heartbroken. And split a piece of wood, I am there. Everything in your physical experience is you and your belief. And when you get trapped into the consciousness of everybody around you who is so in fear and anxiety, you're losing the I am for the they are. You're literally becoming, I jokingly say it this way, are you an action hero or a reaction zero? Are you reacting to the world around you and their fears and anxieties, or are you stepping into your own love and releasing your fears and anxieties? And when you come to that place of choosing that, then your I am becomes really important. I am joyfully living a life of love and spreading it around the world. I am love. It's probably the greatest thing you could ever believe. I am love. God is love. I am one with God. And that's important. And all of us can come to that space. All of us can believe that. And that's what he's saying here. I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, you will find me there. Literally saying that everything in this physical experience is the product of my belief of what I am. And when you come to the place of consciously creating from the I am, your world changes dramatically. And you suddenly realize when you have that ability, then the material stuff doesn't matter. The love matters. And you come to that place of loving, and then the next thing you know, the world around you becomes so beautiful and so loving. And that's okay. It's beautiful. It's nothing to be afraid of. Be the one who alone is choosing to make these choices. And you'll never be alone again. And here's the last of the passages that I want to do on this video. Jesus said, "Why have you come out to the countryside? To see a reed shaken by the wind? and to see a person dressed in soft clothes like your rulers and powerful ones. They are dressed in soft clothes, and they cannot understand truth. This statement is so profound because it encapsulates everything said before. They're so invested in their soft clothes and their fineries and their material world possessions, but they can't understand the truth. Everything I've said before this about stepping into the I am and releasing the material, I mean, it's so interesting to me. In my personal life, when I was younger, I was all about having the, well, I'm going to date myself a lot. When I was in junior high school, and right after, we all had members-only jackets, right? And you all had to have had the logo, and people would say, "Oh, that's a knockoff. That's not a real one." And they would get all invested in the story of the logo and the brand. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I wear T-shirts, right? In the wintertime, I wear ones with long sleeves. In the summertime, I wear ones with short sleeves. I don't like logos on any of my stuff. I don't like logos. I have a Jeep with all the bells and whistles, all the big tires and all the stuff. And I do everything in my power not to have a company logo on my Jeep, because it's not about that. It's about what I like and what I want to do. And I don't want to become part of that material possession, part of that world. And, why do I have a Jeep? Because it's fun. I feel good. I ride down the road in my Jeep with my doors off, and it feels good. I don't do it because I'm trying to be anything other than that. It just fits my personality, right? I'm being me. I am me. And he says, why have you come out to the countryside? He's asking them why they're coming out to see this guy who's not in the city, who's not into all the possessions. Why have you come out to talk to us out here? Because Yeshua in the city would not have been accepted in the cities, and wasn't in many cities. He literally would come out to the countryside, and we would go in and say, he's out there, and they'd come out to him. You've heard me say that many times in other videos. Are you out here to see the reed shaken in the wind? Something that is standing apart, something that goes against the nature of the world, and to see something of power, right? And to see a person dressed in soft clothes, where to see someone who is standing apart and separate and living into the material world and looks so different. They are dressed in soft clothes, and they cannot understand the truth. They don't see it because they're so invested in their members only toga. And it comes down to you realizing that nothing in this physical world is important as the truth of love and the truth of you. And like I said before, when you realize it for yourself alone, you'll never be alone again. And this, guys, has been the end of this video on the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, Part 4. And I hope it brings to you some understanding of what this is. Also the understanding that all of these texts, all of them, the ones in the Gnostic text, the Bible, all of them, are written with an agenda. But there is truth to be found in all of them as well. And open your goggles of love when you read them, and recognize also that the goggles of love have an equality filter. And Yeshua thought in equality, and when you find things that set him apart, realize that's not his teachings. His teachings are, he is the same as you, and he found out the secret pathway to get there, and he's showing you. So look at it that way, and you'll have a very different experience with life. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. The Level Up Spirit channel is solely funded by your generous donations and purchases of private readings and merchandise. Please go to johnofnew.com or use the donation link below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment.